Well, if you ask me, there's only one thing to do with a Nissan Juke.
Cast it into the fire! Destroy it!
Alright, the Nissan Juke. Let's see what we can do about this design. There are a few things that I'm sure we can change. First of all, say hello to Rosie. Every time I start a video, jumps up here and wants to say hi to YouTube. So this is Rosie. Another video, another cat. You know how it goes. So what do we start with this Nissan Juke? Well, let's see what kind of lines we find in this car, which is sitting right here happy on the beach. We have a lot of round corners, round surfaces and round lines. You have two right there, huge round wheel arches, and then the whole front is pretty much a round cylinder like this. If we connect this, all of a sudden we have the front of a Nissan Juke. The only thing that's not round or not soft is this part right here, the A-pillar, and the roofline is very GTR-like for some reason. I think that's cool that they decided to do that with the Juke. It's I'm gonna call it a piece of art, because a piece of art is supposed to invoke a feeling, and that little A-pillar corner there invokes a feeling of frustration when I see it. But the main part that we're going to focus on in this redesign is this beautiful front fascia of the Juke. I mean, just look at this distance from the top of the wheel or tire, and then we go all the way up here. It's like we're climbing a mountain of body panels before we reach the hood. And once we're up here, we find a light that's sitting almost facing upwards, which is very interesting design. It looks kind of like a bug, and then you have a couple of pimples in the front here. And that's kind of what symbolizes the Juke. It's so out of the norm that it kind of makes it cool, but it for sure doesn't make it beautiful. So that's what we're going to try and work with today. I'm gonna keep, as I said, this A-pillar weirdness up here, this sharp angle up there. It's a unique feature for the Juke, and I think the front fascia in itself, the whole thing, is just very unique for this Juke. One thing though that is going to make a big difference, you see this, as I was saying, this front surface, it's kind of like a cylinder. So we have a circle right there, and then the whole front, look at this curve over here. It's pretty much a perfect curve, and this reminds me of one of those asphalt pavement laying, flattening machines. Maybe that's where the designers for the Nissan Juke took inspiration from. Who knows? But what I'm gonna do in this redesign is remove these lights and make maybe some continuity from this V shape in the front up on the hood. And I don't know what to do about this light. We're gonna have to experiment with that. I want the grille to be more of a V shape, the whole thing, so have it be something like that. And then one really important thing that's going to make a big difference is having this area right here, remove this roundness and remove this pimple in the corner of the car right here. So I'm gonna flatten this out and then have the front splitter just stick out just a little bit more like that. And this piece right there, this little thing that's going to stick out, and the change here to the front in the profile is going to make a huge difference in this redesign. So let's jump into the video now. Enough talking about the design. Let's get to work and let's start to redesign this Nissan Juke, and let's see how it goes. You know, I appreciate the Nissan Juke. It tries to be a little bit different, and it stands out for sure with this design. And I think that's what the design team wanted to do with this car. But at the same time, you know that I'm all about proportions when it comes to car design. And this car in particular, the front is just a little bit over the top when it comes to proportions, especially with the roundness of the front fascia. And that's what I'm going to focus on in this redesign video. Trying to sharpen up a little bit of the corners and edges of this Juke, because you have that sharp edge in the A-pillar, and I kind of want to have that reoccur somewhere else on the car. One crazy thing about this Juke and Nissan in general is that they built a Nissan Juke R. And that model had the GTR engine in it, which is insane to put in a small SUV like this. And I think it looks a little bit better than the original, or who am I kidding, still looks pretty bad. But I guess it was a cool idea to put a GTR engine in a Juke, because why not? The concept for the Nissan Juke was the Nissan Kazana, and that was introduced in 2009. A year later, in 2010, the Juke was ready to go into production. And it's staying into production here in North America up to 2017. And for the rest of the world, it's still in production. You can still buy a new Nissan Juke if you want to, unless you live in the United States or Canada, because it's not available here anymore. What I'm doing right here is I wanted to keep the quirkiness of this design. I don't want to make it a boring, just another generic Nissan, and I think I went a little bit too far in that direction halfway through this. So at the end, I'm gonna come back and actually introduce those round pimple lights in this redesign, because I think that was missing from the overall redesign of this car. So this redesign will change up until the final minute of this video. The main issue with this design for me is the front. It's all about the front. I don't really care about the rest. The rest is fine. It is a bit weird, but weird is not always wrong or ugly. It looks okay, but the whole roundness of the front is what kind of messes everything up for me. So that's why I'm adding this tiny little touch here, and that is to extend the lower splitter, just so you have a corner that cuts off that circle that I showed you in the brief, in the intro for this video, just so we don't have a tumbler looking front end. I wanted to define it a bit more and give it some confidence by giving it some shape and not just have it be a circle or a cylinder in the front. If you look at modern Nissans, they have a lot of V-shapes going on in the front, and that's all about brand identity. They have the V-shape in the grille, sometimes on the hood, and of course in the LEDs. So that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to add some V-shaped LEDs so you can know that it's a Nissan if you see it at night. And I'm also gonna add some V-shapes on the hood later on to emphasize that design language even more. So what do you think about this design so far? Are we on the right track, or is it looking too generic, or do you want to do some changes to this design as it is right now? Of course, we're not 100% done with it, but we're getting there. I just need to add some details, such as some grille fins, the plastic parts that go in the grille. And of course, I'm gonna add the pimple lights. I'm gonna call them pimple lights. But to me, I think it looks pretty cool. It looks all right. It's Juke. It's not supposed to be something crazy. Or actually, it is supposed to be something crazy, but we're gonna tone that craziness down a little bit and kind of clean up the Juke's mouth. So this is what I was talking about earlier, adding the details in the grille. Very, very simple. You just need to make one and then you copy them into 4. You don't need to sketch every single one of them. And of course, I need to do the same thing in the headlight assembly. Gotta get all the details in there, the reflections, and think about the glass that's on top of the headlight. Want to have some reflections for that as well. And then think about what parts are glossy, what parts are matte, and then add burn points and highlights and all of that accordingly. I'm not gonna change the wheels for this redesign. I think these wheels are suitable for this kind of car. They don't need to be something special, so I'm just gonna keep them stock. One of the main design features that I want to add to this car that I added here that you can see is the front fenders. They take up so much space that I wanted to integrate them into the front bumper. And also, if I were to make a rear design, I wanted to do the same thing in the rear as well. And that is to have the line of the front bumper go up along the side and under the headlight, and then up and above into the fender. If you compare that to the original, I think this has a better flow to it, and to me it just looks better. All that's left to do now is add these V-shapes to this hood, as I was talking about earlier, and also of course define every single piece that we redesigned. So we want to have an edge on every single surface and every single panel that we have, and of course add the highlights and shading to that. And to finish everything off, you can add an overlay layer to get that glossiness and shine. This is where I was supposed to end this video, but then I looked at it and I thought, it's not a Juke anymore. You can't recognize this as a Juke. And what are the main features in the face of the Juke that kind of makes it a Juke? And that's obviously the round pimple lights in the front. And that's one last thing that I wanted to add to this design, and I think it looks a lot better. It's all a matter of taste. Let me know if you prefer this design with these round lights or the previous one that did not have them. And there we have it, guys. This is the redesign of the Nissan Juke. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me today. It really means the world to me. I hope you enjoyed this video just as much as I enjoyed making this one. It was a challenge for sure. I mean, it's a Juke, but I think we made the most out of it. Before we go, I'm gonna show you the before and after as always, and let me know what you think about this result down in the comments below. I'm the Sketch Monkey. I hope to see you in the next video. I'm gonna link the playlist to all of my redesigns up here in the corner so you can go check them out if you want to. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.